Liverpool to step up interest in La Liga, world beater, if they continue to struggle to sign Isak. Liverpool could step up interest in Real Madrid winger Rodrygo if they can't get a deal for Alexander Isak over the line, according to reports. The Reds have made good progress in the summer transfer window so far, signing 6 players, including Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Milos Kerkez and Jeremie Frimpong. Liverpool recently received a good market opportunity as Newcastle United striker Isak told the Magpies that he wants to leave St James's Park and join the Reds this summer. After inquiries earlier in the summer, Liverpool decided to make a £110 million official offer last week, which was rejected by a reluctant Newcastle. Liverpool have now claimed that they won't bid again for Isak this summer, but Fabrizio Romano has put that down to part of a plan to get the Geordies fee down. The Reds, as well as other Premier League clubs, have been linked to Real Madrid winger Rodrygo this summer, and now Football Insider senior correspondent Pete O'Rourke claims that Liverpool could go for the Brazilian if they miss out on Isak. Read. 20 most valuable footballers in the world. Yamal, Mbappe rank high as Arsenal duo included. O'Rourke told Football Insider. I think it's unlikely as we stand right now. All of Liverpool's focus is on Alexander Isak. They're prioritizing that move and trying to get a deal done with Newcastle, which won't be easy to do. The only way they could get Rodrygo is if they don't land Isak, then maybe they will step up their interest in the Brazilian. Rodrygo's position at Madrid has been the subject of speculation all summer. He barely played at the Club World Cup, which has heightened the speculation. Xabi Alonso still is counting on Rodrygo and he's a part of his plans. As it stands, Liverpool have put a deal for Rodrygo on the back burner as they're putting all of their efforts into signing Isak. If they were to get Isak, it would end their interest in Rodrygo. So as we stand right now, I expect Rodrygo to remain at Real Madrid. But he is a world beater and Liverpool will go for him if they can't get Isak. O'Rourke added. There needs to be a resolution on this soon for Newcastle's sake. It's been a really difficult window for Eddie Howe for all sorts of reasons. They've missed out on other players. If they were to lose Isak, it would be a huge blow. But the whole saga is casting a shadow over Newcastle going into the new Premier League season. Newcastle are within their rights. He's on a long-term contract and they want big money for him. If the player has his heart set on moving elsewhere, Newcastle will have to reluctantly move him on and try to bring in a replacement. It's going to drag on, but the player is obviously unhappy and wants to move to Liverpool. Newcastle are trying to get top dollar for him, so talks are ongoing between the two clubs and between Isak's representatives and Newcastle to see if a resolution can be made. The longer it drags on, it's going to leave a cloud hanging over Newcastle and a bit of an atmosphere around the training ground as well. Eddie Howe, reluctantly, will be willing to let Isak move on if his heart isn't with the club anymore, and then they can use the money to strengthen his squad. Alexander Isak has returned to Newcastle United's training ground after spending time working alone at his former club Real Sociedad's Zubieta base, catching Magpies head coach Eddie Howe by surprise. The 25-year-old Sweden international escaped a self-imposed reclusion in Tyneside to train independently in Spain, making it quite obvious that he's not injured. He flew to Spain to train on his own, while Newcastle's squad continued their preseason tour in Asia. Isak's now back in the UK ahead of the club's final preseason fixtures and the start of the Premier League campaign later this month, although he might never put on the black and white stripes again. Isak's return follows Newcastle's rejection of Liverpool's £110 million offer for the striker, but the Reds are expected to return with an improved offer once the Magpies sign Isak's replacement, whether that's RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko or Brentford's Yoane Wissa. Despite the transfer saga and Isak's clear-cut interest in leaving, the club has continued to publicly support him, or at least not bash him publicly to protect the relationship and eventually, in a miraculous-looking development, welcome him back to the squad. Speaking from Seoul on Saturday, Howe admitted he learned about Isak's whereabouts through the media. I know where he is, really, through the media, Howe said. From that perspective, it's difficult for me to go into any kind of detail. The situation is far from ideal and is quite complex. Newcastle still believe they can retain Isak and have reportedly offered a contract extension with a potential release clause for next summer, but it's unclear if that offer was the one already rejected by Isak and his camp, or if this is a new proposal presented by NUFC. Isak has 3 years left on his current deal, but he's making it tough for Newcastle to hold on to him that long. Eddie Howe casts new light on Alexander Isak's Liverpool transfer with fresh admission. Liverpool are prepared to smash their transfer record once again to sign Newcastle's Alexander Isak, but have seen a bid rejected, with the Magpies seeking a eye-watering £150 million for their star striker. Newcastle boss Eddie Howe has admitted he isn't sure if Wantaway striker Alexander Isak will return to training amid the Swedish international's uncertain future at St James's Park. Isak is being pursued by Liverpool, who have already seen a £110 million bid rejected by the Magpies. The player is unsettled at Newcastle after telling the club he wants to consider his options this summer, but the Magpies want around £150 million for his signature. The 25-year-old enjoyed a fantastic campaign at Newcastle as he fired in 27 goals to help them secure Champions League football and also inspired them to winning the Carabao Cup. But Newcastle face a huge battle to keep Isak at the club beyond the end of the transfer window after he refused to join the club on their preseason tour of Asia. Isak has been training on his own at the training facilities of his old club Real Sociedad in the last week to keep himself ticking over for the new season, despite a lack of progress in talk between the two clubs. And Howe, who had previously been upbeat about the prospect of Isak staying with Newcastle, conceded he couldn't be certain he would link up with the group in the near future after their friendly against Tottenham. Of course I'd like him to be, but whether he will I don't know at this moment in time, Howe said when asked if he could expect Isak to return to training. Other people have been dealing with that situation back at home. Howe distanced himself from the ongoing transfer speculation as he said he was only informed that Liverpool's approach had been rebuffed, as he insisted he would continue to support Isak despite his desire to leave. I was made aware of a bid yesterday and that bid was turned down, all before I'd even heard about it, Howe said. People back in England are dealing with the situation. I don't know what happens next. From our perspective, we still support Alex in every way and my wish is that we see him in a Newcastle shirt again. Newcastle have been ramping up plans for Isak's successor in the event that he does leave after launching a £70 million bid for Red Bull Leipzig star Benjamin Sesko. The Magpies already missed out on signing Hugo Ekitike after having a £72 million bid rejected